right, so welcome to the Level Me Up conference. This is the first session. I appreciate everybody tuning in, whether it's going to be on Twitch or we'll probably have some of this content offline for streaming available for high schoolers and coaches, et cetera, so on and so forth. So my name is Josh Nichols. I am with Dickinson State University. I am the esports coordinator here for the program. And we have a great lineup of presenters today. We're going to be talking about a variety of things, all sorts of different aspects of the esports industry with collegiate. But the main purpose of this conference is to prepare high school students for collegiate esports, whether that be a varsity level play, whether that be, they're getting into clubs and organizations with that, whether they're looking for a degree in esports or that industry. This is to prepare them for that journey, to make yourself marketable as a student, to know about the various scholarship offerings, know what to look for, the pitfalls, things to consider when choosing a school. And so the session today that I'm presenting is how do you choose that college or university? How do you find the college and university that best suits you, and what are the things that you should be looking for? So the other aspects of today's sessions, which you can go to levelmeupnow.com, you can see all the presenters. We have some great industry leaders that'll be presenting on, the industry in general, like how the collegiate esports space has grown. Michael Brooks is the next presentation. He's the executive director of the National Association of Collegiate Esports. So he'll be presenting on that. We have Marty Weatherall will be showing you how to set up a great online profile to make yourself really marketable to universities, and all sorts of other sessions. So go to levelmeupnow.com. Take a look at those, see if there's anything that you like, and join them as you see fit throughout the day. You can come and go as you please. You don't need to attend everything to be a part of this conference. So, how do you choose a university? It seems like an easy question. You've probably been thinking as a high school student, where are my options? I'm going to go close to home. Am I going to go to my parents' alma mater? What am I going to do? How am I going to choose this? But as you've been involved in esports, you were probably looking for an institution that has an esports program and that really fits that need. And so the question is how do you balance the academics and the financial piece and all of those things with esports? How do you pick the best institution for you that also has this degree? And because esports is such an emerging market, because it's such an emerging industry, there's a lot of things that are nuanced to it. There's a lot of things that you might not be considering when you're looking at like a traditional sport, that are different. You have a huge growth in students trying to find a university, and a huge growth of programs they're spawning up to try to find students to fill those positions. So how do you find that best match between those two? Well, first of all, the best piece of advice I can give you about this whole process is do not seek a unicorn. Most of the students that I talk to are looking for perfection. They are looking for the university that meets every single one of their checkboxes. It meets everything. And granted, you want to seek the best institution, but you may not find that unicorn. You may not find the perfect thing for you. There may be, pieces of it that just don't quite match up. Now, there's a level of importance and priority, and you need to develop that for yourself. And we'll be chatting about that in a bit. But you don't want to limit your options because something didn't meet a minor checkbox. Oh, well, this location was, not really what I was thinking about, or I'm not really sure about this aspect of it, or I didn't really care for the tour or the dining hall, or this professor that I met with, that one professor in a whole major, maybe that's not right. Or their esports program, I noticed that they're also running this game and I hate that game. There's so many things that people will nitpick about a university, and you're probably going to be limiting your options and your offers. If you are working to try to find a home for esports for yourself, don't limit your offers. Get offers from as many institutions as you possibly can. Don't negate them or don't write them off because of one minor thing. So how do you make that list of things for yourself? Well, I suggest having a list of your wants, your needs, and your deal breakers. There are things that you're going to 100% want. If you want to be part of a varsity team in an esports arena, if you want to be part of the Valorant team or the Rocket League team, and you want to be the starting lineup and you want to win tournaments and everything, then that's a want. You're going to say, I want this. Or maybe you need it. Maybe that is the thing that is a deal breaker for you, and you need to prioritize those things down the line. Now, if you want certain things like certain PC specs. Most of the games that we're running, any of the esports, programs will be running PCs that are going to run your programs just fine. It's going to run all the games and hardware that you need just fine. It's not going to have any problems with it. But some people will get hung up on, well, this isn't the best or newest graphics card, or, oh, I can't believe that they haven't updated this for, 6 months or something like that. Well, is that a want or is that a need? Can you still run this great program that maybe has, 1 year outdated hardware or something like that? It's still going to, meet your needs. What if it's something like, location? If you're like, hey, I really want to stay closer to home, and so I'm only going to search for universities within a 100-mile radius of where I'm at. Well, if that's a deal breaker for you, you are also going to limit your options as far as what is available to you, because there might not be programs. If you're in a rural area, there may not be esports programs within that specific area. Sometimes people just want to be involved in gaming in general. So you might want to come to university and say, hey, I am just going to be part of this gaming culture. I want to, hands-on, I'm going to be part of the broadcast team. I want to join the club. I'm just going to be part of it. That might mean that you are open to not being on the varsity team or on the starting lineup. Because some universities will have different skill level requirements. So for me, I feel like if you make this list of all the things that you're looking for in a university and then start categorizing them into those columns, like here are the non-negotiables for me. I will not budge on these items. Here are the things I absolutely need. I need a certain amount of finances in order to go to school here. And here are the things that I want. I would really like it if it had small class sizes, or I'd really like it if they had a fraternity, or I'd really like it if whatever. But those are things that are negotiable. So try to set up all that bucket list of items that you're wanting and then categorize them into these areas. And that will be a rubric that you can use as you're talking to other universities. So the three big things that I recommend for people to consider are academics, finances, and then the campus overall. And that campus includes the esports program, et cetera. But these are the three biggies. Yes, there are 1,000 other things that you can consider when choosing a university, but these are the big items that I think are the most important. So when you're looking at these items, let's look at academics first. Degrees. And that might seem like a minor thing, especially when we're talking about esports, because every esports student that I talk to, they care about the team first. Let me just make this bigger. Degrees. You are coming to a university to get a degree. That is your first and foremost priority. You are coming to get a degree. Now, yes, you may have other aspirations. You might want to go pro with esports. You might want to, do something beyond the university level. But you're coming here first and foremost to get that degree. So make sure that you find a degree that is suitable for you. That is the first question I ask students. What are you looking to major in, and do we offer it? I'm not trying to retrofit you as a player. If you're the best player that's ever been, but we don't have a appropriate degree for you here. Now, that's not to say that, there are multiple degrees that you might be choosing. If you're deciding, we might, find a degree that really works for you. Or you might be exploring, here are 3 options I'm looking at. That's fine. But if you're like, I am going to be a, electrical engineer or, an aerospace engineer or something like that, and you're going to a university that doesn't offer that program, it's not a good fit. And so that is the first thing that you should be looking at. Do they have the degree that I offer? Because it doesn't matter how much money they offer you. It doesn't matter how good of a team they have and how good they do in tournaments and if they're winning all the time. If they don't have your degree, what are you going there for? So that degree could be something that is very focused in something other than esports. There are a lot of emerging esports programming that is coming out as well. So they have certificates and 2-year and 4-year and even graduate level degrees in esports. And so if you're looking at the esports industry, there might be a degree there for you as well. Also, you can consider a hybrid degree. So like at Dickinson State, we just added a couple degrees in business. And one of our business professors is going to be Dr. Dregseth. Will be presenting later on choosing a degree. So I don't want to steal her thunder on all of these different aspects of degrees, but we have a business degree that has a focus in esports. So you get some of that esports industry related topics, but you also walk away with a BBA. And so you have a marketable degree in business administration, as well as having, those, esports tenants that will help you within the industry specifically. So another thing to consider is class sizes. Class sizes are, a big thing to consider if you are coming from a small school and then transferring to a large school, or you're coming from a large school and you're trying to transfer to a small school. If you are, have a class and you're one of 20 people in there, that means something different than if you're in a large class. If you were in a class that's like 1 in 20, the professor knows your name. They know who you are. They know if you're late. That there's a little bit more one-on-one attention there. And sometimes for someone that is coming from a very large school, that can be a little intimidating. So you can come in and say, geez, it's really odd having this one-on-one attention. I'm used to these big class sizes. But on the turn, you also have a lot of one-on-one attention, so that you can do well in your academics. Again, I'll go back to the slide. Degrees. You're coming here to get a degree first. Academics is the first and foremost thing. If you fail out of all your classes, you are of no use to me on my esports team, because you are not going to be eligible to play, or you're going to drop out of school and you're going to put the team in jeopardy. And so academics are important. So sometimes small class sizes can be beneficial to that. So look at the university's faculty to student ratio. That's usually a good metric to look at. And that gets into, all these statistics. You're looking like, oh, these are numbers I don't care about. But usually university will list that. So for instance, Dickinson State is 13-1. It's for every 13 students, for every one faculty member, we have 13 students. And so that ratio is important to consider. If that ratio is 200-1, that's going to be a different class size. So if you're 1 in 20, that's something. But what if you're 1 in 200? That's a different scenario. And so if you're 1 in 200, you're not necessarily going to be anonymous. It's something that you might be, student number 74 in this particular class. And so that's something to consider, even as you're choosing teams and as you're choosing the esports program. When I'm talking to students about, let's say theater is an example, and they're like, well, I'm looking at these two universities, one's small and one's large. I'm like, well, you have the option of going to this really prestigious university for theater, that has a lot of budget and they're doing great productions, but you're always going to be tree number 3 in the background. Or you can go to a smaller university that maybe has smaller budget and things like that, but you're also maybe going to be able to get a lead role in your freshman year. So when you're looking at class sizes, you're also looking at the university size as well. The university size can affect the esports program and the support that they get and all of those types of things, as well as, are you going to be on the starting lineup of a team? Are you going to be in the B team or the C team? Or if you're not even going to have an opportunity to play? But class sizes are the same thing. Are you going to be anonymous? Is that comfortable for you? I really work with students on trying to pick the class size that suits them and the university size. So we'll talk about campus size and footprint a little bit later. So GPA requirements. So GPA requirements are extremely important. Now, I want to say that if you have a bad GPA, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be marketable to universities. It doesn't mean you're not going to be marketable to esports programs. It just means that you might have to approach it a little differently. You might have to have strengths in other areas, and you might need to use that first couple years of college to really bolster your GPA, or the last year or two of high school to bolster your GPA. So if you're starting to look at universities now and you're like, oh, my GPA is not very good, it's a little bit low, now's the time to start looking at how to make those improvements, because GPA equals eligibility, security, and scholarships. And so if you're looking for university, they will have certain eligibility requirements for GPA. Certain universities is 2.0, 2.5. It can go up or down from there, just depends. But they'll have eligibility requirements for playing on a varsity team. If you go below that threshold, you will not be eligible to play. And so that puts the team at risk. And that's where the security comes in. If I'm looking to recruit a student and you have a very, very low GPA, I'm nervous, because even if you're the best player in the world, you're a rock star Rocket League player, or you were just the best Valorant player, but you're not going to be able to sustain that GPA longer than a semester or two, you're going to get booted off the team. And now I'm going to be stuck missing a player, and I'm going to have to find a replacement for that. And so for me as a recruiter, I look at whether or not you are going to have long-term sustainability within that program. Are you going to be a student that I can keep on my team forever and ever and ever until you graduate? Or maybe get a master's degree. We'll keep you here forever, But, we want to make sure that you're going to be on the team. And so academics are crucial to that. So if your GPA, as an example, is a 2.0, and let's say that that's the benchmark for eligibility, I would rather recruit a student that's 2.5 to have a little bit of a buffer right there. And so if right now you're looking at your GPA in high school and you're like, I'm at 2.0, maybe that's something you want to really work on, really focus on, so that you are more marketable to more universities. Because again, you don't want to look for the unicorn. You don't want to say, this is my perfect institution, it's the only one I'm going to apply to. Get offers from everybody. Get as many offers as you can. It's okay to say no to an offer. You get 100 offers and only one of them is good, that's fine. At least you have the opportunity to see what else is out there and not just limit yourself to one option, because there might be lucrative opportunities that present themselves to you, or universities that are closer to perfect than farther away from perfect. And so make sure that you are exploring all those options. So The final thing, though, that GPA influences is scholarships. There are a lot of universities that base even their esports scholarships on some sort of a GPA requirement. You are this level of an esports player and we want you here, but there's also a GPA requirement that you must have in order to get the scholarship. There's also academic and merit-based scholarships that are based on your GPA. And so if you have a higher GPA, you get more scholarships or more waivers or more opportunities. And so all of those combined can make a really great financial aid package offer for you. So making sure that you have a great GPA for that is good. If you don't have a 4.0, that's fine. I'm not saying that you have to have that. It would be great and you will be more marketable, but just make sure you're improving your GPA every single day until you graduate so that you are more marketable to all institutions. So the next big category, one of the big three, is finances. So cost of attendance is really critical. Like academics, if you fail out of classes, you are not useful to me on my team. If you were going to fail out of school, you are not going to be able to produce any product on the team because you're not going to be playing. And so making sure that's important is great, but also finances. If you drop out of school because you can't pay, or if you're working 2 side jobs so that you can pay for tuition, you're not going to be useful for me on the team. If you're not getting sleep because you're working till 3 a.m. and then trying to come play the game the next day, and you're not performing at the highest level. So making sure your finances are in order, finding university that is within your budget, finding university that is offering you a package that is reasonable as far as what your out-of-pocket expenses are, and we'll talk about out-of-pocket expenses versus offers. But there's a lot of things to consider. You have tuition, you have fees, you have housing, you have dining, you have transportation, you have books, you have everything else. There's a lot of costs associated with college. Now, all of you are just logging off because you're like, oh, I didn't know it was this expensive. Goodbye. These things are things to consider, but it shouldn't deter you. You just need to get as many offers as you possibly can from as many institutions and look at their cost of attendance, because overall, what you want to look at is how much it costs to go to school there out of pocket. What is it going to cost you money in hand to pay to the university in order to attend there? And if that money in hand, a lot of times it's going to be covered by loans. Some of times parents are going to be paying that excess bill. Sometimes you're going to be working to pay that off as you go along. Whatever that out-of-pocket expense is, that's the important number, because you're at some point you're going to have to pay that, whether it's in loans later on or whether it's at the fee payment day. You're going to have to pay that fee. So what is the out-of-pocket expense? Not necessarily what scholarship you're being offered directly, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So for instance, like Dickinson State, we offer 20 states right now that receive our resident rate tuition. And so as you're looking at an institution, you might say, well, I'm not really going to consider this, like North Dakota as an example. I'm not going to consider North Dakota. That's way far away from Nevada or California or Texas or, Idaho. But you also are going to receive in-state tuition. And so that right off the bat knocks a significant amount of tuition dollars off of the bill so that your scholarships that are applied to that then go further. And so when you're looking in university, look at what states they offer resident tuition rates in. Because if they offer it in a variety of states or the state that you're from, that's going to lower your costs immediately. And some of them will offer it for 1 or 2 states. Some of it offer only for their state. Some have 4 states that are touching their borders. And some will expand it like Dickinson State, where we offer a variety of states. And so that's something to consider first and foremost, is how much is their tuition going to be, and do they get a residency rate discount for that? Scholarships and waivers. So every student that I talk to, whether you are if you're a bronze Rocket League player or a SSL Rocket League player, both of those players act as though that they are the best player on the planet. It doesn't matter what their team dynamics are or just their rank or anything. Every single player I talk to is the best player that has ever been. And that's just the nature of esports. We all like to brag a little bit. We all like to have the high score. We all want to, build ourselves up. But you have to note that you might be competing with a lot of different people. And so just because there's, you're thinking you're the best, you might have to compete with a whole bunch of people. And it is important that you're not setting yourself up for failure by going into it expecting something that is maybe not attainable. If you are a bronze Rocket League player, and I'm not saying that you're not the best team player and that you're not dedicated, but you might not have the skill level. You might be a supersonic legend, but you're kind of a jerk and you don't play well with others, and your team doesn't like you. And when you get into the games and stuff, you're not working together. All of those things combined, you might not be as marketable as you think you are. And so make sure that as you're going into getting offers from universities, that you're not asking for something or expecting something that is unattainable. because there are a lot of people that will take that position if you don't. Uh, some students I've had bronze, silver, gold players in whatever game that will come in and say, I want a full ride offer. I won't even consider you. And I'm like, oh, okay, see ya. Because that's not something that I can offer you. If, just by rank alone, I can't necessarily put you on my teams. You're not going to be marketable that way. But also, if you were coming in and expecting that full ride offer, and I don't have the ability to offer you that, which, it depends on the player and all the different specifics of what we can offer. But if that's a non-starter for us, if you come in, demanding X, Y, and Z, you might not even get a conversation about how close we can get to that offer. So make sure that you keep an open mind as you're coming in. And again, that offer versus out of pocket are two different things. Students come to me all the time. I got a $40,000 offer from this university. I'm like, yeah, they cost 80,000 to go there. That means 40,000 is out of pocket. And so just because the dollar amount of the offer is large doesn't necessarily mean that your out-of-pocket expenses are going to be reasonable for your budget. So make sure that you consider what is the out-of-pocket expense versus what is the offer amount. It's great to say I got offered a half ride, or it's great to say I got offered $50,000. But if you're only being offered $10,000 instead of 50, and it's paying for 90% of your school versus 20% of your school or something like that. That's a lot of math there. Don't worry about the math. You're still in high school. Don't even care about it. But that, I mean, if you're getting offered something that out is, completely nice on the surface with the dollar signs and the zeros, but it's not going to pay for your school and you're going to walk away with, 50, 100, $200,000 worth of debt, that's a huge problem. So consider the offer versus the out of pocket. And it's okay to look at the offer and say, oh, that's really nice that they offer me that, but how does it compare to those out of pockets of the other universities? So the last thing about finances to consider is alternative options. What do I mean by that? Well, there are going to be all sorts of ways that you can help pay for school. But also there's going to be options for you is how to start your education. So I will have some students that, decide, look, I have a degree that isn't offered at your university. And again, that's the first thing we talk about. Hey, we don't have a degree here for you, but they're like, you know what? You're offering me a position on the team. You're giving me a great scholarship offer. I'm going to come there 1 to 2 years just to get like some gen eds done, to maybe get a 2-year degree and then stack that with a bachelor's degree at another university. And they might consider just coming here for that time. And so that's a way that if you're coming to a university that is lower in tuition costs and those types of things for your first 2 years, that's a way that you can save some money those first 2 years. Also get some experience on your belt on an actual team. A lot of high school students come into esports without any LAN experience. They have no actual live in-person tournament experience. And that's something that can be a problem for some universities. Is if you get here, you might be a great player on paper. You might have a great tracker.gg, and you might really kill it in the matches, but you get in front of a live audience and you freeze. And so getting some experience on some of these teams, so that when you get into your second, third, or fourth year, as you're looking for another university to transfer to, you can be very marketable because you're like, look, I've had these tournament wins. I've had this LAN experience. I bum, 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 bum. And you also could have a glowing recommendation from the individual that is, you're leaving the institution. Now, I will fight to keep you in, at Dickinson State. But if it's something that you have a better opportunity, or your degree is going to be something you can't obtain here, I'll give you a glowing recommendation because I want you to succeed. And if you did great work here, you're going to probably do great work there, and you have more experience. You might get a better offer from that next institution. Also, what about online options? Now, a lot of games, depending on the tournament you're involved in, will prohibit you from having online play. So they'll actually want you in the physical facility playing. And so some varsity teams will not allow you to get an online degree and also play for the institution. There are some things that can allow you to have online degrees. So certain titles, like chess is one that's kind of emerging right now. We're just adding varsity chess this fall. That's one that you can actually play online. There's not as many restrictions regarding that. And so if you're a chess player, you might have an online option where you don't have to pay for housing and dining and all those extra expenses. You can stay at home. Maybe you live at home with mom and dad for a little while longer, play some chess in, in the basement, get a scholarship for it. But also there's other positions. So like this semester we are hiring, or we're not hiring, we're have a position called digital engagement specialist, which is a scholarship position for a student to run our social media platforms and develop TikTok videos and social media content for esports. Well, they're going to be doing that degree online, and they're able to perform those duties for that position online and get a scholarship for doing so. So they're saving a ton of money. And if you can get a position like that, which we have a variety of positions, whether it's shoutcasting or if it's graphic design or web development, all those types of things that we have because we need that infrastructure support for the esports program. Well, you might not be on a varsity team, but you could definitely get a year or something under your belt of college online and save a little bit of money so that then you can move on to the next step. Or maybe you get your full degree online. Maybe you don't care about the varsity team. There's lots of options beyond varsity to be involved with collegiate esports. And we'll talk about those later. I always think we can talk about it later, but there's so much stuff to talk about. Also, seeking work opportunities, and whether that be outside of campus or inside of campus, if you're going to university, do they have job opportunities that are open within the city? Can you get a part-time job? Can you do something to help earn some extra income? But also, does the esports program itself offer job opportunities? A lot of institutions will, be able to give you a position, a work study position, and whether that is institutional work study where they're paying you directly, or if you're getting a federal work study grant from the federal government as part of your financial aid package, there are opportunities that you could work on campus to help pay for school. And maybe that's 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week. It all helps chip away at that. And so even though you might not get you might be a little short on your scholarship offer, if you can then secure also a work study position that in between classes, you come in and you work some for the esports program or for another office on campus, you can then help pay for your school. So always look at what the university offers as a whole, not just what they offer for that one specific esports program, or here's the traditional varsity in-person thing. Look at all the options. Or, hey, I'm just going to go there for a couple of years. Those are all things to consider when trying to find your path to graduation through esports. There's a rocky road and all sorts of forks in it, and you can take any path that you want. So then when we're looking at the campus as a whole, there's campus size and there's campus life. We're not going to get into those too much. Campus size, I always just say note the footprint of your campus. Again, especially if you're going from a large school to a small school or a small school to a large school, those can be some jarring experiences to get used to. Dickinson State's campus is relatively small. Like our esports program, we have our esports broadcast lab, our varsity lab, our casual gaming space, our new racing simulator lab, all located in our student center. And that is right across the hall from our dining hall. Upstairs is our mail room. And so it's like very centrally located with a lot of stuff and resources there. And our campus size is relatively small. Our footprint is small. So you can stumble out of bed and walk, half a block here or a few feet to the next room or to class or whatever. And so it's small in that way. You're not worried as much about parking and walking 2 miles or having to bike or, if depending on the weather, getting to places. So that campus size for us is a selling point because it's a very close knit. But also that might mean that the campus life on campus is not going to be as vibrant and robust. If you're looking for a sorority or fraternity or something like that, or you're looking for, these big massive events that are happening on campus, you might need to go to a larger campus, but that's also going to incur maybe additional costs for parking or additional walking and planning and those types of things. And so that's something to consider. So campus size, campus life, those are things that are definitely important. Look at what your campus offers, the people that you're looking at, to see if that's a good fit for you. But the esports program is the biggest part of that campus life that you're probably going to be considering because you're looking at esports. And so those other things are important, but the esports program then becomes one of the final 3 biggies. So academics, finances, campus, which is kind of the esports program primarily. So the esports program, what to look for? So one, what's the overall gaming culture? Is it something that they only have varsity teams, or is it something that they have clubs and job opportunities and those types of things? The space you see on the screen is a large casual space that we have. It's open 24/7 for our students. They can come in there anytime they want. If they're part of the gaming club, they can reserve that space. They can say, we want to have a midnight game launch party, and we're going to have it in this room. Or we want to have a informal tournament with our suite mates in our residence hall or something like that. They can reserve the room and do that. You can just come in there before classes. We had a group of I believe, nursing students that came in there every morning at like 7 a.m. They played a little bit of Minecraft, and then they went to their like nursing labs and clinicals and stuff after that. But it was just, a bonding experience for them to come play some games. And so what is the gaming culture like? Is it something that gaming is endorsed on campus? Is that something that's supported, or is it something that, oh, well, esports, that's just that extra, lab in the basement and nobody really goes there? What is the footprint of esports on campus, and what is the status of esports on campus? And we talked about campus size a little bit. There's some campuses that are very large, and I've been to their spaces, and it's hard to even find their esports spaces because there's so many buildings and there's so many things that there's just not a lot of foot traffic to it. And so sometimes they're either underutilized or it's kind of hidden away and it doesn't get as much attention as maybe it deserves. So what's the gaming culture on campus overall? What are the game offerings? If you're looking for a varsity team, what offerings do they have for the games? If you're a Valorant player and they don't offer Valorant, yeah, it might not work for you. Now, there are other opportunities that are maybe job related, or degree related or things like that. So it's not just about the varsity play. You might not want to be a varsity player, but if you're like, varsity is my deal breaker, that list we talked about, if you mark that varsity play on this game is my deal breaker, then if they don't offer the game, that's probably not a great start for you. So that's when you're looking at those three areas, write those deal breakers. And if they say, nope, we don't offer this game, that's a pass. You can move on and then have another offer from another university. But also, what are the game offerings that they're offering in the future? Or what are those, is their ability to grow? Are they willing to add those games in the future? For me, if I have X amount of people that want to play a game and there's a collegiate tournament that's offered, I will add the game for you. Let's start it up. Let's make it work. And so if universities are open to those types of additions and they're open to that flexibility of it, that's also a thing to consider. Even though they might not offer it on their website, don't write off an institution because they don't have it listed. Ask them, would you add this? Is this something that's in the future on the horizon? Is this something that you might consider? Because it might be something that you could be on the ground floor of starting and shaping that program, which also looks really good if you're going to be a team captain or if you're going to get a position title for that on your resumes, either for another institution if you transfer or for job applications, as you're saying, look, I helped build this from scratch. So those are things to consider. What are the facilities and equipment? If there's with esports, all you need is a chip and a chair sort of thing. You just need a computer and a controller or a keyboard or whatever, and you can play your game. Now, not all computers are created the same. A lot of students get really hung up on hardware. And I've had students that'll look at like a graphics card and be like, well, that's the lowest graphic, that was a year old. And I'm like, oh, okay, but it's still going to run just fine on your PC. Everything, all the games that you're playing are going to run just fine. But it's also important if the university is putting infrastructure behind their esports facilities to ensure that there is high-end equipment long-term. And so, what a lot of institutions I see do is they will buy a massive amount of equipment. They'll buy 40, 50, 60 PCs, and they will start running those, and then they lose support from their institution. And so those PCs just don't get replaced because, well, we bought this one time. We bought all these 50 computers, and now they're not replaced over and over. And so that hardware does get old. So, with our particular instance, this larger space here is the casual space, which is our overflow. And so that gets all of our old equipment. So those are running like 2080 Ti graphics cards as an example. Well, we just upgraded our varsity lab, which is 24/7 access only for our varsity players. That gets the newest, latest, greatest equipment. And then we graduate that other equipment, or demote it, I guess, to the other space because that's more casual play and we don't need as high of end of equipment. So having less PCs but updating them more frequently is something to look for. When's the last time you updated your PCs? It's okay for you to ask questions of the university. For me, I am a recruiter. I'm going to drill you on questions and ask you all sorts of questions about your instance and your specific circumstances to see if you're a good fit for my program. You can ask me the hard-hitting questions too. Ask your recruiters, ask the coaches that you're talking to, what are these things for your institution? Are you willing to add games? When is the last time you updated your equipment? Do you have sponsorships? Do you have whatever? Like, ask them these hard questions because they need to sell themselves to you as much as you need to sell yourselves to them. So even though you can't look for a unicorn and you can't assume that you're going to get a full ride on a bronze Rocket League tracker, that doesn't mean that you can't have questions and you can't seek out these answers from the universities. If they don't have those answers, that might be telling as to whether or not the program is going to be long-term viable or whether or not it's a good fit for you. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want. I'm always open to them, at least. So does the program have sponsors? Do they have support? Does the institution support the program? Do you get funding for it? I've talked to teams where, they will win and they'll make national tournaments and the university says, well, we don't have the funds to send you to the national LAN. And I'm like, what? Like, for me, I'm like, I would be baking cookies all night and having a bake sale to make sure we got people to the LAN. We want to make sure that we support those efforts, but not all institutions have that funding support. Not all institutions can do that. If that's the case, if they don't have the funding support, maybe they need to be involved in tournaments that are only online so that you don't get lapsed out of having a LAN experience or something like that just because you performed well. And so, Dickens State, we've never not attended a LAN that we were eligible for. We've always, and even ones that are just like kind of like open qualifiers or more regional stuff, we try to go to because we feel that that's a priority and that's important for us. But we have to plan ahead for that. And not all institutions have the same funding levels. Also, if you get sponsorships, that's a good sign that the institution has community buy-in. So like we just got sponsored by Northern Bottling, who is a Pepsi distributor. And so they just put up these nice walls for us. They gave us a custom branded Pepsi machine. They're invested in esports and technology and the university. So is the community supportive? Are they going to give back to the program? Do they see it as valuable to the institution and the community? That's also something to consider because that value shows that the esports program possibly has potential for growth, and also potential for being a long-lasting and prestigious for you as a student who's going to be competing in that program. And then there's what's the growth of the program. And I talked a little bit about this, about like I'll add a game if we have people that are interested in playing and I can find a collegiate tournament for it. We will trial it out. Even if you're not a great player, I will start the team just to see if it's a viable program. Test out the equipment, make sure the streaming works for it. What are the tournament structures like? That's a way for me to beta test that with students who are interested. But also, is the program growing on their own without the student prompting them? So we've been hearing that there's kind of a growth in a couple areas. One, chess, it seems to be growing and getting into the esports space. A lot of high schools are offering online chess or chess.com for varsity level play for esports. They're kind of coupling it inside of that esports umbrella. So we're going to be adding varsity chess. We've listened and we said, okay, this is somewhere that's growing. Let's add varsity chess. And we have scholarships available for that because we feel as though that's going to be an area for growth. We just added this racing simulator. This isn't our exact one. That's a stock image, but we just built the exact same thing pretty much. And that's going to be offering iRacing, NASCAR, and whatever other series that they choose to add. So we just built that racing simulator lab. It's really cool looking, and we hope that students will join and start playing, and then we'll add more sim units. And so that's an area for growth we're kind of dabbling with to see if that's something that we can add for our students. We're looking at adding all sorts of games as well. And so again, we have on our timeline, here are games that we want to add. We just need students to fill those positions in that starting capacity. And so it's up to both the student to tell us what they need, but us to tell them what we would like to do in the future and if that's a place that you might fit into. And then finally, there's the beyond varsity, I call it, it's everything else involved with esports. Again, there's esports degrees, there's esports clubs. We talked about the esports positions, like the scholarships we're offering for doing our social media content, our videos and such. There are all sorts of opportunities that are beyond varsity. And many students get very honed in on that varsity level play. As you're looking at your skill set and how marketable you are, if you talk to 10 institutions, 20 institutions, 50, whatever, and you're not really being made offers, look at your rank. Look at how you interviewed with them. Look at how you trialed. Look at the conversations you're having. And you can ask some questions. I will definitely tell you why I am not pursuing you as a student for my varsity level team. If you say, if I say, hey, I'm not really interested in making an offer for you, or here's a low offer, I will tell you if you ask, hey, your rank isn't high enough. But if you're interested in starting a B team or a C team, I'd love to have you, and we'll still give you a scholarship, and I'll get you in there. Or maybe it's something that we noticed in the trial, it wasn't really meshing with the team. I think you could use some work. Maybe I'll offer a position for you to be a backup player. So that then you can grow into the team and learn some of those skill sets and have better team dynamics to then fold into the main team. But if you're not getting big offers from a lot of institutions and you're asking them, they might tell you you're just not skilled enough. And if you get that from so many institutions, you might end up needing to lower your expectation of what scholarship offer you can receive. Open your options to not be as seeking a unicorny. You don't want to be seeking a unicorn as much. You might have to lower that expectation and say, okay, I'm going to open myself more broadly to these other options for universities. Or you might have to say, you know what, I love gaming, but maybe I'm just not good enough to be on the varsity team. And that's a hard thing to say to yourself. And it's not that you can't get to that level. Sometimes you'll start out at an institution and you'll start honing your skills, and then you can join the varsity team in a year or two. But look at other opportunities, whether that be work positions, the gaming club, what is the gaming culture on campus in general, like we talked about. is this a place that I would like to go to keep my gaming passion alive? Is this something that I can pursue gaming, whether it's academically, varsity level, club wise, socially? How can I make sure that I keep that a part of my life because it's important? So those are really the things I think students should consider. And I don't know if there's any questions online. I'll try to look at that. In the meantime, I know we're kind of running out of time, and I want to promote the next session as well. But if there's any questions, feel free to ask those in chat, and I will try to take a look at those. But also, I will say this as well. If you ever have questions, and a lot of the students, but also there might be a lot of viewers that are coaches or counselors for high schools as well, or parents of a high school student. I'm open to answering questions about this stuff at any point in time for any university, for any high school, for any parent, for any student. So bluehawkeyesports.com is up on the screen. That's our website. If you go there, you can definitely reach out to us, send us an email, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about you, for you, but also to talk about you as a student, for what you might be able to offer other universities and what might be marketable for you, and to see if we can help build that up for you. I would love to have you at Dickinson State. We'd love to get you here. I mean, I think we have a great program and we'd love to recruit you, but it's one of those notions, like if we raise the water for everybody, if the tide raises, all the ships rise. And so if I help you as a student, become marketable for any institution, hopefully ours, but you end up going somewhere else, that just gives us a better player to compete against in the next tournament, which helps hone in my team to be better because they have a more challenging player to compete against, and it makes the esports industry as a whole better for the collegiate scene. Um, so we have a lot of great sessions coming up. If you have not looked at the schedule, go to levelmeupnow.com, and you'll see the next one we have coming up is Michael Brooks. He's presenting a session called Game Changers, Exploring the Rise of Collegiate Competitive Gaming and its Societal Impact. So when we first joined NACE in 2019, I don't want to misspeak, but I think it was somewhere around like 50 organizations or 50 universities that were involved, somewhere in that number. And they went all the way up to like 800 now, like 800 plus. And so it has been exponential growth. But beyond that session, we also have one on getting marketable degrees by Dr. Dragseth. She'll be talking about what degrees specifically you might want to look for the esports industry. Making an online presence for yourself. Marty Weatherall, he's the CEO of LeagueOS and the co-founder, and he will be chatting about how to make that online profile so that I reach out to you to try to get you to my institution. How do you make it so that you make it presentable and marketable so that we are attracted to that profile to reach out to you to make you a scholarship offer for that. Also, Cora Kennedy will be here. She works with the NECC, and she's the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Director. So she'll be doing a session about diversity and inclusion and all the different diverse elements of esports. And then we also have finally Game Strong Strategies for Healthy Gaming. Mike Anderson, he's the president and co-founder of Fit Gamer, and that's a great app that allows collegiate and high school esports teams to really hone in on mental health, physical health, eating habits, and all those types of things. And so he'll be presenting on how to be the best gamer that you can, how to maintain physical maintenance for your esports program, which, there's a lot of stereotypes about esports that it's, not healthy and those types of things, and people are just sitting in their basement playing video games, and that's not always the case, and not even primarily the case. And so all of these sessions are offered up on levelmeupnow.com. Just click on the Zoom link when you get into that website for any particular session at the time that'll be presented, and you will be able to watch it. I think we have maybe one question. Let's see. Did you say that video will be available later? So somebody asked about whether the videos will be available later. So yes. So if you go to levelmeupnow.com, we will have more information about when and where these videos will be available. We might be doing some like offline or like stream Twitches on that, or Twitch streams on that. We might be adding them to our YouTube channel or directly for like an on-demand sort of thing. So we might do like a pre-recorded webinar. So there'll be a variety of options for that. And so, yeah, just go to levelmeupnow.com. And if you have any questions, if you don't see that posted in any time in a short capacity, feel free to reach out to myself, bluehawkeyesports.com. You can get our contact information there, and reach out and let me know, and we can get you that information. Also, if you are a high school counselor or a coach or something like that, and you have a class or a team that you're looking, to get this information to, I'm more than happy also to meet with them individually. I mean, I can schedule a call just like this and say, hey, I don't mind meeting with your students and just having a Q&A and answering questions for them. That's something I'm open to as well. So if you need that, feel free to ask me. I'd be happy to schedule something to try to help your students position themselves to be the best candidates for collegiate esports that they can possibly be. Right. So I think that's all the questions we have. So I think what we'll do is we'll end it here. But we have that next session coming up in about 13 minutes, and so feel free to head on over there and get some great information about kind of the emergence of the collegiate esports scene. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.